Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm the King Live, and today I'm going to be breaking down something that a lot of players actually struggle with, which is pistol rounds in Valorant. Because the first round of the game is only played out with pistols, a lot of players might treat them as if they don't matter at all. But pistol rounds are actually one of the most important rounds throughout the entire game, and since there are only 2 of them, you want to be able to maximize your performance throughout these rounds to make sure that you can win more games. But why are pistol rounds the most important round in the game? If you don't already know, the reason pistol rounds are important in Valorant, it's because of momentum. Momentum is a massive part of Valorant and can easily determine the outcome of multiple games throughout your day. What momentum basically means is that winning one round is going to influence the likelihood that you will win the next round. And this isn't some sort of psychic mumbo jumbo. Specifically, what momentum influences in a game like this is your team's income and the economy going into the next round. If you win the pistol round, you are going to have more money going into the second round than your opponents will. Because of this, you are favored to win the second round of the game as well, because you can afford better guns than your opponents. Now, this doesn't get out of hand yet, but it's close to being a massive issue for the enemies, because if you win the first 2 rounds, what you can do is something called a bonus round, where instead of buying rifles for your team, what you do is you keep your Spectres, Stingers, or Buckies that you bought in the second round, and you use those against your enemy team's rifles. Now, although your Stingers aren't favored versus the enemy team's rifles in this round, it is still possible to win. And if you do win, what it will do is it'll get your team rifles, save you money that you didn't have to spend on those rifles, lose your enemy team their rifles, make them have to save another round, as well as make the game 3-0 for your team. This is where your team's momentum gets really difficult to stop, and none of this is possible if you don't win that first pistol round. So let's teach you how to win more pistol rounds. Before we get into it though, I'd like to introduce our question of the day, which is, what is your favorite pistol to use in the game? For me, I'm a sucker for using the Frenzy lately. It just feels too strong for me to pass up right now, but let me know what you guys are running in the comments below. The first thing we're going to break down, and I'll try to do this quickly, is the advantages and disadvantages of each pistol. The game's been out for a while now. I feel like a lot of players already kind of know this, so I'll try to explain it as briefly as possible for you guys. The Sheriff and the Ghost are your 2 longer range precision-based pistols. If you buy a Sheriff or a Ghost, you are saying, I want to take longer engagements this round. The Sheriff has the upper hand in these longer range engagements because it will always be a one hit to the head on pistol rounds, but the Ghost has the advantage because it is oftentimes a one hit to the head, but you can also buy utility with it. Generally, if you see a Sheriff buy, it's on a character that doesn't really need their utility first round, and it's normally on the defensive side because they are able to dictate where they take their engagements easier. An example of an agent who might buy a Sheriff would be a Jet or a Sova, but I've seen it done on pretty much any agent. Just try to keep in mind when you buy a Sheriff, you're sacrificing all utility you could have in that round, so you gotta make sure to land your shots. Moving on, your close range pistols are Shorty and Frenzy, but to be honest, the Shorty isn't always the best buy, so you're normally going to want to opt for the Frenzy instead. Buying the Shorty generally means that you're hoping they push your position, which could result in some cheeky kills, but also could result in you wasting 200 credits on a gun that you didn't use, which feels bad on pistol rounds, especially when you could spend that 200 credits on another piece of utility instead. When you couple this with the fact that the Frenzy is so good, it's really hard to justify buying the Shorty on those pistol rounds right now. However, if you do end up buying a Shorty, play close angles and make sure to drop it on the ground before the round starts so that you can also have a Classic nearby in case you need to retake. Speaking of the Classic, where does that fall in terms of pistol rounds? The Classic is a pretty good middle ground between close range pistols and further range pistols. It's also really nice because it's free, so you can buy light armor and utility and normally end up picking up somebody else's pistol throughout the round. Normally, if I'm running a Classic, I'm playing a support character like Breach or Brimstone on offense. This way, I can flash my team in and then hopefully pick up a Frenzy off of a target they kill in the process. In terms of the best pistol to buy on pistol rounds though, there's not really a perfect answer. It all depends on who you're playing and where you want to play. Now, I could go breaking down every single agent and what you should or shouldn't buy for them on pistol rounds, but you guys are a lot smarter than that and I don't want to waste your time. However, I have noticed a lot of players may feel a little bit lost about what to purchase after the Frenzy nerfs now that it costs 500 credits. For characters like Omen, this oftentimes means starting Classic armor might be the best choice, but I would still like to encourage many players to consider buying the Frenzy. One of the best things about the Frenzy is how much damage it can do and how incredibly accurate it is while on the move. And at least as of right now, those 2 things are still very much the same. So if you're playing a character that has the option to upgrade their starting pistol, it is not always a terrible idea for you to do so. To start out this guide though, the first clip that we're going to be looking at comes from Shroud on Haven. He starts out the round playing as Reyna, opting to buy Frenzy and his Blind. Reyna is one of the strongest characters to play on pistol round because of her ability to reach 150 HP, which is something that no other character can do. This means that if she is able to get a kill, she can heal up and will be able to survive a headshot from almost any pistol on the first round, which can actually be a really big deal. You'll notice Shroud starts out the round by following his ally's Roomba into Garage, trying to capitalize on the utility that she has used as much as possible. This is probably the same reason that Shroud doesn't use his blind to enter Garage right here, because he knows if the enemy is close, they will already have to react to the boom bot so he can save his blind for later. As he hears the Roomba lock onto a target, Shroud decides to push the enemy in hopes that he's able to kill them while they are running away. After getting the first kill, Shroud quickly heals up and decides he wants to get even more aggressive now that he has the healing. The reason he likely does this is because his team already has the entry through Garage, and if Shroud decides to play this slowly here instead, he will eventually lose his overhealing and will waste the opportunity to capitalize on it. What I really want to highlight here though is not even what Shroud does, but watch how his teammates play very closely with him here. They notice him pushing through window even though he doesn't communicate it, and they are able to follow up and grab the trade onto the target after Shroud already picked up one. Being aware of what your teammates are pushing and trying to match their aggression is a massive skill that will help you win not only pistol rounds, but any round in the game. That's why it's always important to be watching how your teammates are playing and try to complement them to the best that you can. Oftentimes you're going to see rounds like this where the enemy team just rushes the enemy on pistol round. It's the first round of the game, and as you're getting a feel for the enemy team, it's normally easiest to just run at them rather than trying to plan a strategy around very little information. If you're going to decide to just run at them though, you need to make sure that you back up your teammates when you do. We're going to move on to another pistol round now, but before we do, if you guys are serious about improving, I really recommend checking out all the things that we have to offer at SkillCapped.com. We have up-to-date lineups for agents, courses on all the mechanics needed to win more gunfights, Smurf commentaries where a high-rank player walks you through how to carry in your rank, and so much more. Come join over 500,000 satisfied members at SkillCapped, improve your KDA, and get that rank you always wanted at SkillCapped.com. Link in the description below. The second round we're going to take a look at on offense though comes from a Radiant streamer and ex-Counter-Strike pro Nothing as he's playing Phoenix on Split. This round showcases utility usage on pistol rounds really well, so that's what I primarily wanted to highlight here. Because you have to make decisions of what to buy on pistol rounds, oftentimes you won't have full utility. Asuna in the last clip didn't buy any utility and decided to go Frenzy Armor instead. In this round, Nothing determines that his Flash is a really strong tool and wants to go Flash Ghost for the round, rather than Frenzy Armor. You'll notice his team is doing a push onto B site by splitting through middle and tunnels. Nothing is going to use his Flash to exit out of tunnels with Cypher, while the rest of his team is going to push through Heaven. Once again though, this round isn't just about what Nothing bought, it's also about what his teammates bought. Notice how his Omen purchased his blind this round to set up a blind push through Heaven with his Jet, who went Frenzy Armor. Breach, meanwhile, during this round, opted to run Classic Armor with 2 flashes to help assist his Jet in his push as well. This round showcases a lot of different options of what you can run for pistol round, depending on what character you are playing. As the round plays out, notice how Nothing strafes to the right outside of tunnels to avoid the Killjoy utility on site. Because of this, he's able to collapse on the Heaven players as they are retreating onto rafters, and although he goes down, he has made his entry onto site and his team is able to clean up the rest of the round for him. Similarly to that last clip with Asuna, notice how Nothing didn't just ignore his teammates' aggression into Heaven. Instead, what he did is he tried to match their aggression with some aggression of his own on B main. Because of this, it makes the defenders have to split their attention on the 2 points of attack and makes it easy for his team to pick up the first round. Those were just some offensive rounds though. What should you be looking for when playing on defense? Pistol rounds on defense are a little different than offense because you get to set the stakes for the enemy team. You get to choose the engagements that you take and potentially set up traps for the offense. Let's look at another round from Asuna here as he's playing Jet on Ascent. He starts the round on Catwalk with a Sheriff, which as we established earlier is an aggressive buy because he can't buy any utility with it. However, on a character like Jet, this is more acceptable because her utility isn't as necessary on pistol rounds. Because Asuna has a Sheriff, he knows that this engagement towards tiles is going to be a favorable matchup for him, as he is guaranteed a kill with 1 shot to the head, but his opponents will not be unless they have a Sheriff, which is very unlikely. With some crisp aim, and by choosing his encounters wisely, Asuna is able to pick up 2 quick kills right here for his team to start off the round. Rather than just rushing them with the Sheriff, Asuna makes the decision to choose fights that favor him, and after those 2 quick kills he decides to back up, rather than getting too aggressive, as if he goes down here this round could still be losable. Sitting at 34 HP after those engagements, Asuna backs up towards B site to regroup with his team, and then together they perform a retake on A. Now, I know most of us do not have the aim of Asuna, but it's the decision making like this that puts him in a position to make these plays. He chooses favorable engagements, doesn't get too aggressive, and waits for his team, and because of that, it gives him the opportunity to land this ace on pistol round. Now this was a Sheriff play, but as we were talking about earlier, the Ghost is going to play in a very similar way to how you would play with the Sheriff. You don't want to take those crazy close engagements if you can avoid it. Generally, you want to take further engagements and tap fire at enemies. To showcase this, let's take a look at a round from Team Liquid's Scream where he clutches up the first round of the game while using a Ghost on defense. He starts out the round over on A site Icebox, but quickly gets word that the enemies will be taking B site, so he starts his rotate to come back up his teammates. Oftentimes on pistol rounds, teams like to full push sites, so he's not too worried about it being a fake or anything, and that's why he's playing so loose right now. As Scream arrives on B site, he notices there's a Viper wall up, cutting off his vision from where the enemies are planting the bomb. Scream uses his utility to stop the bomb plant and does not get over aggressive here by attempting to push through the wall. It can be really tempting to try and swing the bomb planter when you hear it going off, but because of the Viper wall, if Scream tried to swing out here, he would likely walk into 4 enemies and it would not be pretty. Instead, Scream knows that his utility is going to delay the bomb plant, and he also knows the Viper wall cannot stay up much longer, so he patiently waits for it to drop. As the Viper wall drops, he's able to see Sage planting the bomb and is able to land the first kill on her and then quickly turn his attention towards the Viper. Notice how Scream is not panicking with his shots. This is exactly how the Ghost is supposed to be played on pistol rounds. It's a very tap fire heavy weapon. If you attempt to shoot too quickly with the Ghost, your spray will end up going all over the place and it will make it more difficult to land your shots. Instead, try to find a rhythm with shooting so that your shots can always be accurate with the Ghost. Now after landing the kill onto the Viper, Scream turns his attention towards the enemy Reyna, who he knows is stuck in this corner. Rather than attempting to full swing the Reyna, Scream holds the angle and waits for her to swing out towards him. Because he knows she's stuck, he would prefer that she has to swing out and has to correct towards him, rather than him needing to push her. Using all of these tactics, Scream was able to secure the first pistol round for his team and set them up for a good game. This brings us to the last round I want to focus on though, and this one once again comes from nothing, where he's going to be playing Sova on defense. You'll notice how he's aware the enemy team has mid control, and he decides to position himself in vents late into the round in an attempt to cut off a potential rotate towards A site. Now, as we discussed before, the Ghost's optimal range is generally longer ranges. However, it's still a fairly decent gun close range if you can land your headshots. But specifically here, nothing has the advantage, because for the enemies to push him, they need to drop down from vents or take the rope, in both situations causing them to be inaccurate. Because of his position in vents, he's able to pick up a kill onto the enemy Sage, and after noticing she dropped the bomb, he backs up to fire 2 quick shock darts in hopes to damage the enemies as they attempt to retrieve the bomb. He attempts to take control of this position once again, noticing his teammate Yoru has his back. Then after hearing the enemies tap the rope and not push him, he assumes that they must be going back to B. This lets him sneakily push behind them and effectively finish off the pistol round for his team. Because defenders are able to choose where their encounters happen, it gives them the massive upper hand when played intelligently. This is why it's the attacker's job to use utility to push the defenders back and not let them take fights that they want. Because of the lack of utility on pistol rounds though, you can really abuse crossfires and cheeky angles like this one, because it's very unlikely for the attackers to have the resources available to deal with you. Lastly, remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank that you've always wanted, you should check out SkillCapped.com. Link in the descriptions below. That's going to do it for this guide though. I hope that it was helpful for you. Pistol rounds are one of the most pure forms of aiming in Valorant, so if you're struggling to aim with pistols, one last thing I would recommend for you to do is go into a deathmatch and just practice killing players with a Sheriff or a Ghost for a bit. You're not likely to win a deathmatch with a Sheriff, but it will really improve your ability to land those needed headshots on pistol rounds. Also remember to answer our question of the day, which is, what is your favorite gun to use on pistol rounds? I'd really love to hear what you all have to say in the comments below. I always try to respond to some of you, so be sure to let me know. We put in a lot of work to make sure that these are the best guides to help you improve in Valorant, so be sure to show your appreciation by dropping us a like below. But that's all for us today. Thanks again guys, my name is The King Live, and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.